Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. It is your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Reach out to me directly for pricing, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Today, we are discussing the latest version of the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore Diver, reference 15720ST. This model was launched in 2021, and it features what Audemars Piguet describes as khaki greens. So, about that in a moment. First, stainless steel, 42 millimeters in diameter, though it does wear larger, 14.3 millimeters thick from lug tip to lug tip, 54 millimeters, and if you include these little plots or intermediate links, the total rigid distance across the wrist is a beefier 58.7 millimeters. So I'm going to show it to you on my wrist so you get a good sense of how it fits. And I recommend you consider it more like a 43 or a 44 millimeter watch. It wears fine, but I do think that the lower limit for wearing this watch is going to be something like 15, 16 centimeters, more or less what you're looking at right here on my wrist. My wrist is flat across the top, oval in profile. The watch is not as thick as you might suspect because it's not a Royal Oak Offshore chronograph, so it will fit under a jacket cuff, just not the tightest of dress sleeves. One last look down the barrel. You can see there is a little bit of a curvature to the case around the outer edge that helps with the fit. We have a strap that is clearly designed for integration as it matches the taper of the lug hoods. It's a matte finish with a somewhat chiseled profile. There's a little character line molded down the center as well as down the edges. It's thick, so it's going to last a long time, and it's fixed to the case using screws and bars, which is a nice, secure way of assembling an expensive watch. It's a brand new AP strap. These screws and bars more expensive than spring bars, but also more secure. Now you can see the case has a set of lug hoods that are satinated. The plots themselves are satinated. The case flanks are satinated, but there are some polished bevels for accenting contrast. We have that diminishing bevel on the lug hood. We have micro beveling on the crown guard structures themselves. And then we have the rounded bevel of the bezel. And the bezel, a rounded octagon being inspired by a vintage diving helmet. The Royal Oak Offshore was designed by a young Emmanuel Get back in the early 1990s. But the original Royal Oak was designed in 1972 by Gerald Genta. And so Get retained the rounded octagon of the bezel, originally inspired in Genta's day by a vintage dive helmet. Now the gasket for the case and the bezel is actually fully expressed as a styling element on the Royal Oak Offshores, and here Audemars Piguet has gone the extra mile and also color coordinated it to the strap as well as the dial. The finishing of the case is magnificent. It's all rendered by hand, so you're getting a lot of hand finished quality. The shoulders for the crown and the diving crown are contrast finished ceramic. You can see there's both satin and polish, and then we've got AP and rose gold. We have a screw down crown to operate the internal ratcheting unidirectional dive bezel. It works just like this. This is a 300-meter water resistant watch because it is a Royal Oak Offshore diver, not a standard offshore. You line up the index, you screw the crown back down, and now we'll do a quick loom shot so you can see what the diver would see in the depths. And you can see it is a quite well loomed watch, with the bezel itself being highly luminescent, not just the initial sweep. Ironically, the initial sweep of the bezel, the first 15 minutes, are blacked out to contrast with the rest. And you can see all three hands, including the second hand, are loomed, which is nice because it lets you know in the dark and the depths that your dive watch is still running, which is why every dive watch should have a loomed seconds hand. We have steel bolts, hexagonal, that are inset below the plane of the bezel, and all of this is manually finished, so these contrasts are rendered by hand against milling tools. On the dial, we have what's known as the Mega Tapisserie. It is here in khaki green, as described by Audemars Piguet, and we have a high-grade dial with rose gold logo, applique indices, and hands to match. Easy to read by day, easy to read by night. There's a little date hiding underneath the minute hand. You can see it's right there. The watch has a stop seconds function, as you can see, and then it also has a quick set system so you can rapidly cycle the date. You can see a special typeface was created specifically for that date wheel, so every little detail matters at Audemars Piguet. Now let's take a quick look at the reverse side of this watch, where you can see the movement. This is a relatively new one for Audemars Piguet, bigger than the old caliber 3120 from the previous version of the diver. This is now 32 millimeters in diameter to better fill the case back. The original movement was just over 26 millimeters, so this is a better size for a large watch. Now, it's automatic winding with ceramic bearings. It's got a 60-hour rated power reserve. It's got the stop seconds. It's got the quick set date. You could see it as a Gyromax style free-sprung balance for precise adjustment and shock tolerance, and for the same reason it has a full batwing-style dual-anchored balance bridge. It pivots on 32 jewels, and it contains a judicious blend of manual and mechanical finishing that's standard for this price point. A big upgrade over the previous movement, not just the size, but also the beat rate, which is now 4 Hz rather than 3 Hz, making the watch potentially more resistant to shock-induced timing deviation. That's one of the advantages of a higher beat rate. Now, if you look carefully, you can see that there's little instructions on the buckle for releasing the buckle from the strap without tools. And that's a good thing, because we also have a system that allows us to release the strap from the case without tools. This is brand new on this generation of the diver. It's a quick release lug system, so you can swap straps, buckle from strap, strap from case, and you can do all of that without relying on tools or a watchmaker. So reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.